Now that we've covered the concept of marginal revenue and marginal cost, and that the profit maximizing level of output needs to be where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, let's actually take those principles and actually apply it to numbers. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of work through this table and use those same principles, and we're going to look at how marginal revenue and marginal cost impacts profit, impacts this economic profit. So we're going to start right up here. First and foremost, whenever you're looking at this table, you notice that there's these little dashes here. Well, remember that marginal deals with the change, and we have nothing to compare one unit of output to in the previous row. There's nothing there that deals with numbers. So because of that, whenever you're dealing with anything like a marginal revenue, marginal cost, marginal product, marginal utility, you always leave that very first row blank or put a little dash in there. It doesn't mean zero, it just means that there's nothing there. So zero is not technically correct, but a dash or a blank would be. So let's take what we know. We know that marginal revenue needs to equal marginal cost at profit maximization. But what happens if marginal revenue is actually greater than marginal cost? Well, we know that the additional revenue of $45 from producing one more unit is now greater than the additional cost of $15 to produce that unit. So basically what that's saying is, if marginal revenue is 45 and the marginal cost is 15, we are going to receive $30 in profit off of producing that next good. 45 minus 15 will give us $30 in additional profit. So as we move from here to here, as we increase output by 2 units, and we're going to receive $30 per unit, we see that our economic profit actually increases from negative 105 to negative 45. So then we keep on moving on, and we go from a marginal revenue of, or now that we know that we receive $30 of profit, we're encouraged to increase output by 2 units because we're earning more profit, we're earning a higher profit. So then we go to this point. We say that 45 is greater than 11.11. Again, our marginal revenue is greater than our marginal cost. So what should we do? Well, we should increase production. We should increase from 3 to 4.8 units of production. We know that we need to do that. So we increase, and again, here we have an additional profit per unit in this case of approximately, what would that be, about $34 per unit. And then we increase output by 1.8 units. So we're going to take that roughly 34 times that 1.8, and we figure out that our economic profit is increasing again. And the reason it's increasing is because the additional revenue is greater than the additional cost. So we're receiving more profit. And because we're receiving more profit, we're encouraged to expand. So we go on to the next point. So let's say that we are operating at 4.8, and we want to know if we should expand to 6.5. So then we look at here. Revenue, marginal revenue is still greater than marginal cost, which means we have an additional profit of about, in this case, $39 per unit. So we expand again. Well, should we expand from 6.5 to 8.10? Well, we're faced with that same issue. Is marginal revenue greater than marginal cost? Yes. So we're going to expand because there is about $32.50 in additional profit per unit. Notice that I'm saying additional profit. This is extra profit. This is over and above the amount that you had before. And anytime that marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, increasing production is going to increase your profit, your total profit, because you're obtaining additional profit. Again, we get down here to this 9.6. And at 9.6, 45 is greater than 20. Marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. So we expand again, and we expand down to this 10.8 mark, where marginal revenue is still greater than marginal cost. So all the way up until this point, we're encouraged to expand because marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, indicating that by increasing production, we're going to obtain additional profit, increasing our overall economic profit. So we would expand from 9.6 to 10.8 units because the profit will increase from $172 to $186. Now, 186 is the largest profit recorded, which is indicating that that profit is maximized at 10.8 units of output. Now, if you expand from 9.6 to 10.8 units, you would obtain an $11.67 per unit in additional profit. I've been talking about that, but here it is spelled out that we would obtain additional profit. We can calculate that by taking our marginal revenue minus our marginal cost is going to show that additional, that change in profit. Because if you remember, total profit is equal to revenue minus total cost. Total revenue minus total cost. Well, the marginal profit, or the additional profit, or the change in profit, is the marginal revenue minus marginal cost. And we see that by increasing from 9.6 to 10.8 units, we're actually going to obtain an additional profit of 11.76. Now, what if we take this one step further? What if we increase from 10.8 to 11.6? And now we see the opposite is beginning to happen. That marginal revenue is actually now less than marginal cost, which means we're going to receive $45 in revenue, but it's going to cost us $62.50 to produce that additional unit. So if we expand from 10.8 to 11.6, we actually see that profits fall. And they fall from 186 to 172. So you're not going to expand production from 10.8 to 11.6 because profits are falling. They're actually going down. So anytime that marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue, we're actually facing additional losses, and we don't want to do that. Additional losses that we don't really need. So anytime the marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue, we're actually incentivized to decrease production, to move out from 11.6 to 10.8. So, why would you expand to lose money? Now, where exactly is profit maximization? Because I told you that marginal revenue needs to equal marginal cost, but nowhere on this graph do we see that marginal cost directly lines up with marginal revenue of 45. It doesn't do that anywhere. So, we know that we maximize our profits, or the profit maximizing level of output is where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, but it doesn't line up perfectly. You're going to face this quite often, especially if you ever start doing this on your own. You're going to find that you don't actually have every single little data point to show you exactly where those two are equal. But we know that 45 is somewhere in between 33.33 and 62.5. So we actually know that the profit maximizing level of output occurs somewhere between 10.8 and 11.6 units of output. That the marginal revenue from expansion must equal the marginal cost of expansion. So we know that the profit maximizing level of output is somewhere probably right around 11 units, somewhere between 10.8 and 11.6, although we don't line up exactly with where it's at. But overall, what I want you to see on this, and here in a little bit, we're actually going to show the graph, and you're going to be able to see and actually pinpoint exactly where that point would be if you were to graph this and actually drew your graphs out symmetrically or according to the way the number should be. So, but we know that profit maximizing output occurs somewhere in between these two, and that at this point, whenever marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, we should be expanding. But if marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue, we should be decreasing or actually downsizing a little bit, just simply because we need to be operating where marginal revenue equals marginal cost.